Welcome to Season 3 of the Soualichi Stories, presented by the Foresee Foundation and funded by Fonds voor Cultuurfonds. The Soualichi Stories series includes tales of our island's beloved legends, history, and folklore as told by exceptional storytellers. Foresee Foundation is honored to share these stories as it brings people together and bridges the gap between generations. These stories remind us of our culture, our heritage, our one island. Through these stories, we hope you feel more connected as we thrive to keep storytelling alive. Please enjoy this next Soualichi story and all other stories within this series, and let us know if there are any other particular stories you would like to hear in the future. Enjoy!
The story is called Christmas Jumbie. It was Christmas Eve and Grandfather sat in the living room in his brown wooden rocking chair. "Come, children, gather around on the floor and let me tell you some stories." Kenny, the older of the two brothers, smiled and moved quickly to the rug on the floor. Joshua, who was 12 years old and 2 years younger than his brother, lingered behind the curtain of the bedroom. "What kind of stories, Grandpa? The last time you told us stories, I couldn't even fall asleep." "You are too Freddy," Kenny belted out from his space on the rug. "Come on, man." Kenny loved Grandfather's stories, especially the ones about Jumbie. Joshua did not like them so much. As soon as the boys settled themselves comfortably, Grandfather began the stories. "This first one is about a Jumbie that followed a woman home after a plane crash a long time ago." Grandfather spoke excitedly while the boys listened nervously. Joshua was trembling but did not want his brother to see that he was frightened. At the end of the first story, Grandma peered through the open kitchen door and exclaimed, "Oh boy, I have run out of vanilla essence to put in the black cake. Who can go to the shop for me?" "Kenny, you and Joshua please run to the corner shop and buy me some. Hurry and come back. I want to finish the cake before Christmas." Grandfather twisted up his face. "Ah, Millie, you have to spoil a good thing, eh? They won't take long, my dear. Don't worry." The boys were excited to go on the road, especially Joshua, who was glad to escape the Jumbie stories. As they walked to the shop, they admired the bright red, green, and yellow lights on the Christmas trees in the yards of the village people. They also saw some of their friends from school playing and dancing on the streets. The steel pan music from Mr. Brown's shop came alive with Christmas songs. People were busy making last-minute shopping, and the scent of Christmas was everywhere. The aroma of black cake, tarts, and puddings permeated the streets, and people were in high spirits. The boys entered Mr. Brown's shop, and as Kenny searched for the vanilla essence on the shelves, Joshua lingered by the door, as it was his bad habit to eavesdrop on anyone's conversation, even though it had nothing to do with him. Miss Thelma and Mrs. Brown were discussing how sad it was that Miss Keita had just passed away suddenly a few days ago from a heart disease. Mrs. Brown said, "God knows best. She suffered enough." "Yes, that's true. And today is the third day after her death, so her spirit will be walking tonight," exclaimed Miss Thelma. Joshua's mouth flew wide open and his knees buckled under him as he moved quickly away from the woman and ran to find Kenny. Kenny, did you hear that? I heard Mrs. Brown say that Mrs. Keita's spirit will be walking tonight." "Stop the nonsense, boy. Why are you always eavesdropping in people's business anyway? Let's go home. Grandma is waiting on us." As the boys left the shop, Kenny too began to feel nervous. He had heard Miss Thelma saying that some people have seen Miss Keita's Jumbie already walking around since the night before. Kenny looked up to the sky aimlessly. It was a dark blanket above, but the stars shone as bright as diamonds. Kenny knew he had to be brave, but he still wondered how he would get home in the dark lane without street lights. Soon they came to the last light before they could enter into their lane. Joshua grabbed Kenny's hand, and with tears in his eyes, he exclaimed, I can't go any further, Ken. I don't know if Mosquito's Jumbie will trouble us. I have a plan. Let's run until we reach home. The boys ran quickly at high speed through the thick, dark shadows, looking back every few seconds. Suddenly, before them stood a big banana tree with the shadow of the tree hanging in the road. The shadows began to move towards them. Joshua screamed, Lord have mercy, we dead! Kenny dropped the bottle of vanilla essence and shouted, Help! Somebody help us! Mosquito Jumbie coming! The boys raced past the banana tree and bawled loudly, refusing to stop until they reached home. Grandma heard the crying and was shocked to see the boys storming through the front door with faces as white as ghosts. What is all this ruckus? She asked. The boys were so frightened that no words came from their mouths. Joshua's pants were wet and he had only one slipper on his feet. Grandfather came out from the living room and examined the boys from head to toe. Come, boys, sit down and tell us what is wrong. Grandma gave the boys some sweet lemonade, and after they drank it, they were able to speak. They told their grandparents how they were attacked by mosquitoes Jumbie in the lane as they were passing the banana tree. Grandfather laughed. That is just the shadow of the banana tree. It's not a Jumbie. Maybe you should stop telling them those Jumbie stories as you see what happened tonight, Grandma said seriously. I am sorry I dropped the vanilla essence, Grandma. It's all right, my child. I will ask my neighbor to lend me some. Don't worry. The next day, it was Christmas. So after dinner, Grandfather and the boys went to look at banana tree that almost killed them. Look at Mosquito Jumbie, Joshua said and burst out laughing. Yes, she's waving her hands too, Kenny squealed as he held his stomach and fell to the ground. Grandfather looked at the boys and smiled. You have nothing to fear, my boys.
We hope you enjoyed this inspiring Soualichi story, presented by the Foresee Foundation and funded by Fonds voor Cultuurfonds. We hope this story helped you to feel more connected to the island and to each other. More information on the story and schedule can be found on the Foresee website and social media pages. We look forward to connecting with you again in our next Soualichi story.